Welcome everyone to podcast drill number 2. I'm your host, Jonathan Cook, and today we're going to talk about why Doug Benson loves movies so much. We're going to talk about what is deep inside the rabbit hole. Then we're going to find out what 2 drunk ex-pastors have to think about the world. Get ready, folks. Here we go. Doug Loves Movies is currently number 20 on the iTunes top charts in the category of comedy. It's certainly a podcast all of you should have heard of or seen, at least on your iTunes charts once or twice. You've probably actually heard an episode or two. But for those of you who haven't, a quick explanation is it's Doug Benson, who is a comedian, and a stoner comedian at that. He invites a bunch of his friends out to a theater, and they sit on a panel, and he gives them trivia questions in a game show fashion to try and get them to guess which vague, obscure movie he happens to be talking about. It is, if nothing else, chaos. Some of the best episodes are when Pete Holmes and TJ Miller, or one or the other one, shows up, and they basically run all over Doug, who's normally like a really mild-mannered, relaxed, really mellow, stoned kind of guy. He's normally chill about everything, but then, Pete Holmes or TJ Miller, one of them, will get up there on stage and just completely steamroll everything Doug has to say and take over the show and start talking about God knows what, Transformers 4, or I don't know what Pete Holmes talks about, something stupid, I assume, but it's always hysterical, and you actually get to hear Doug Benson get really, really frustrated and almost yell at him. And that alone is absolutely hysterical because he's so mellow. And to hear him be like, guys, please, shut up for just a second. Just shut up. Oh, it's so un-Doug and so absolutely wonderful. If chaos isn't your thing, you can always go to one of the episodes that has Sam Levine or some of the other more serious guys getting on there and trying to play the game right, as I'm sure they would say. Sam Levine is just he's a phenom. He'll get on there and he knows the answers to questions that Doug gives literally next to no hints on from like 1976, and he'll go, +2 or 3 in the names and get them in order, which, if you understand the game, you understand. That's really impressive. Ken Jennings does a good job doing some things, and Jon Hamm every now and then shows up. Yes, Jon Hamm, like Jon Hamm, Mad Men, Jon Hamm, Don Draper. Sexiest man alive, Don Draper, Jon Hamm. He shows up, and because he's one of their friends or something, I don't really quite understand the history, but it's wonderful. It's just as wonderful as you could expect anything with Jon Hamm could be. For the funny alone, this podcast is worth subscribing to. It's great. It's got tons of laughs. You'll learn a few things about some movies that you probably didn't know, but probably the best thing about this podcast, one of my favorite moments, is those 1 or 2 times where Doug will say some hints and it won't make any sense to anybody on the panel, but for some reason I've just been on Netflix bored the night before and saw some obscure movie from 1984 that has some random guy that gets hit by a car in a spoiler alert category, and I know it like 2 or 3 actors deep. And I'm sitting here in my work truck raising my hand, ooh, I know it, -2. But then nobody gets it, and someone says, name that movie at, +8 actors, and some goofy somebody will say Ghostbusters. And it's always really disappointing. But when you know it, super exciting. Now let's get deep inside the rabbit hole with Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. This is a podcast on the Stand Up New York Labs network, and if I were just to call this your regular old run-of-the-mill conspiracy theory podcast, I believe I'd be doing you guys a disservice. I actually stumbled across this one looking through some of the different podcasts that Stand Up New York Labs has to offer, and when I did, I thought, it's conspiracy. This ought to be fun. And then a few hours later, I come to almost fall in love with Mike, Tim, and Dave, and I found out a good bit about, kind of how the guys work. You've got Mike, who is the basic cynic in everything. He believes the government's bad because the government's bad, and he thinks that some of them are out to get us and some people are not out to get us. Then you've got Tim in the middle, who is my buddy, who basically thinks everything is everything's kind of out to get us, but it's okay, man. We're all on a spiritual journey, and just do some mushrooms and be happy, and the spirits are all going to take care of everything. And then you have Dave. And Dave is the serious one that wants to talk about fire and brimstone. And 9/11's not real. Neither is Sandy Hook. Neither is the Boston bombings. Oh my gosh, everyone, hide in your bunkers. This shit is serious. Tim and Mike actually engage in their fans quite a bit from what I can tell. I personally have talked to both of them, like I'm sure many fans, many times about all kind of sorts of different things. Specifically with Mike, I've talked about my use of bro, and man, I use bro a lot when I'm having such a broy conversation with my bro Mike Cannon because he's such a good bro. That was basically how that conversation went. Then you get conversations with Tim, and you talk about the nature of reality and how we're all God, and how if I believe in a different God than he believes in, but it doesn't matter because if you put yourself in the place of God, what do you really find out? God is everything. You can't find hate. You can't find dislike in anybody. Everything's okay. Let's all have this nice, comfy spiritual journey. That was a really trippy conversation I had with him. But either way, they are so friendly when it comes to audience participation. They'll get your emails and enjoy them as long as Dave doesn't hoard them. Now, that's not to say that Dave is not good with fans. He has his nice little following of people that absolutely believe everything that he says. The only issue I have with that is I don't believe everything that Dave has to say, but that's okay. Dave's great. He's really fun to listen to and all, but there's only so much I can go into with out black helicopters circling around me and just like this feel of I think I have every laser pointer in here. It looks like a sniper rifle's beam of light about to shoot me in the face, and I feel like I'm about to get assassinated. So I try not to get wrapped up too much in that. Let's just stick to Tim and Mike, and everybody be all happy. But if Dave is correct, then we're all going to die anyways. No matter how crazy any of Dave's theories get, whether it's about the world being flat or, we're all just figments of each other's imaginations, it doesn't matter, because the basic premise of this podcast is it's just three guys out there looking for the truth, whatever that happens to be. If they just in the end find out that mushrooms are a fun drug that they can do and give them trippy dreams, then that's what they've discovered. If not, I don't know, we can all take that journey with them. But regardless, everyone should be listening to it. It is way more fun than a lot of other podcasts out there. Any other ones that I've found looking into conspiracies, this one's way more fun. It's not quite as serious. Dave gets serious, but this is the one you should all listen to, just for the funny factor alone. Everyone, subscribe. Deep Inside the Rabbit. Lastly today, we're going to talk about Drunk Ex-Pastors. This is a new podcast that I've just started listening to and don't know everything about. I've listened to quite a few episodes, 4 or 5, 6 of them. It doesn't seem like it gets as much play as I think it deserves. The audio quality, whereas it kind of was a little faulty in the beginning, it gets much better like 4 episodes in. And they even do an introduction before the first episode explaining that one of them, who is apparently not the technically minded, one of the two of them, like the me version, since my stuff is so wonderful and sucky, but he, started doing the audio stuff first, and so it wasn't as good. But they kind of give you a breakdown of what they're going to talk about in each podcast, which is really helpful because the podcasts are long and rambly, which is part of what is so fun about them. They say that they're going to cover culture and religion and what Biebers them, which is a verb that they've made up to say something that annoys them. Yeah, it's Justin Bieber only turned into a verb. Something Biebers, something annoys something. They use it in adjectives. They use it for a lot of things. But it's basically two guys who both used to be pastors, which is pretty fun. It's the catchy name that kind of grabs you in, and I want to know what they think about stuff. Well, they grab you in and they tell you all about the stuff that they think, what's going on with the world politically, what's going on in culture. I want to say they even discussed immunization shots in one of the episodes, which was fun. They talked about Ferguson in a few of them. There's not a ton of episodes, but it's definitely one of the ones that that is certainly flying under the radar. I don't know anybody else that is like a giant fan of it. Like I am soon becoming, the more episodes I get into it, the more I care less about what the topics are, and the more it's just fun to listen to these guys that happen to be best friends talk about whatever's going on in their world, whatever's going on in their city, whatever's going on in their refrigerators at the moment, because that's always fun. They do shots, they give shout outs to people. All in all, it's definitely one that you should listen to the intro and then listen to maybe 1 or 2 episodes, jump to like the 4th one, and give it a play. If you enjoy what they are doing, then subscribe, because I have, and it's certainly fun. But that is all, guys, for this episode of Podcast Drill number 2. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you again next time. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Podcast Drill. That is at Podcast Drill. I'm Jonathan Cook again. I'm going to put links down in the bottom to the podcast in which I'm talking to, or at least Twitter handles, or try and give you some way to find these great podcasts that I'm talking about and that I'm going to talk about every week. Guys, again, give me a break. Just trying to get used to all this stuff. Don't know how to edit. Don't know how to really video anything. But we're going to get through it, and I'm going to get better, and I'm definitely going to put out more content regardless of if it's crap or not. See you guys next time.